What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and the overall markets. We'll talk about some big news that just came out, what you should be watching for in terms of earnings and our data. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Weeb link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. Deposit $500 and you're guaranteed 20. Deposit $2,000 or more and you're guaranteed 40. The offer is very soon in just 2 days. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So as far as Tesla goes, we're holding the 260 area very, very well so far. And this is attempting to rebound a bit. We could try to push a little bit higher upon open, but just be careful to see if we end up establishing a lower high compared to that high we made yesterday. And if that's the case, it's going to be dependent on a data release. So I want to talk about when the data is coming out, what the news is saying about Tesla, etc. And then I'll break down more information about the charts. The first thing worth mentioning is the fact that despite the downside we're seeing in Tesla, there was some good news that came out about how Tesla was getting some price target upgrades from analysts after its key earnings. We actually saw others out there. So Daiwa Securities came out. They raised their price target from 225 to 228 for Tesla, which is very bullish. And then we also saw others out there, such as CFRA analyst Garrett Nelson, boost their price targets to $225 from 220 on Thursday. So some new analysts are coming out and becoming a lot more bullish on Tesla than before. This news came out as recent as yesterday. However, simultaneously, there is some other pieces of news coming out about how three of Tesla's insiders and their basically board members are basically planning on selling about $300 million worth of Tesla stock. This is according to some very important SEC filing reports. I went over this in more detail yesterday, but this is what's basically happening. They filed these reports, which give them these arrangements. They expire around like June for some of these agreements. Other ones are like in May. Others are in February of next year. And basically, in total, it's going to be about $300 million worth of Tesla stock to be sold. A little bit more negative news, especially Elon Musk's brother, who is involved in this. That's Kimball Musk. But I just want to call that out. That's what's making some headlines, at least for the time being. Now, besides that, as far as the news goes, just know this. There were a couple of earnings that came out. We're just focused on what just came out for today. So far, we just have retail data. It's all very minor, but look for some higher volatility at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time because you have the JOLTS job openings, job quits, and consumer confidence data all coming out. At 10:30 a.m., we have the Dallas Fed Services data, Dallas Fed Services revenues, and more data that's coming out, so get ready for that. But the main time for volatility is going to be at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 30 minutes after the market opens, you have some important jobs numbers coming out. This could cause the market to pump or it could cause the market to dump big time. So get ready, guys, and be very, very prepared. Now, on top of this, when it comes to earnings, just know that yesterday Ford had weak guidance. That's why the share price ended up dipping. And then for today, we had SoFi, PayPal, and McDonald's announcing their earnings. And then after the market closes, we have AMD and Alphabet. So lots of big earnings are coming out. For now, let's focus on the few over here. Starting off with PayPal, unfortunately, shares are falling a bit because of the fact that there's a miss in revenue and guidance was not that strong for them. But the share price isn't moving that much; it's still kind of flat for the most part. EPS was a beat at $1.20 adjusted, with revenue at $7.85 billion. That's once again below expectations. Not the best of revenues for them. However, for the fourth quarter, they basically did not really tell us much about that. They are anticipating that we're going to be seeing low single digit growth, which isn't that great. Many of them out there were saying that this was reflecting a price to value strategy and prioritization of profitability and growth. But if anything, I would say that that wasn't the best of earnings from PayPal. We could have gone a lot better. They missed on revenue, and then overall guidance was not that strong. For SoFi, the share price is kind of like flat, despite the fact that we saw a double beat on Q3 results and guidance was raised. So good results from them. Their full year guidance basically has been increased to about 11 to 12 cents per share, which is not bad whatsoever, with their overall net revenue to be increased as well. So that's not bad. We also saw their overall numbers not looking too bad, and guidance was pretty good as well. So and pretty good. So not bad by SoFi. McDonald's also beat on revenue and profitability, uh, but the share price is still down just a bit. They didn't go over other things that many people were asking questions about. So just want to call that out. EPS was a beat, revenue was a beat, but guidance was so. Other things were so. Not bad, despite the fact that we're seeing the share price down. Anyways, That's it. Most earnings were not that bad. So Tesla's attempting to rebound right over here. I think we're going to be looking for a nice rebound attempt in the morning upon market open for the 265 area, or even above this. But be careful, because once our data comes out at 10 o'clock a.m., once the job numbers are out, we'll see if this helps Tesla launch up. So if we break past 265, our target's going to be all the way up towards 268 to 269. So just keep that in mind. If we reject it very close to 265 or so, if we fail to hold above 270, there's a risk of us kind of making a lower high, then rejecting, continuing to fall. If we get a rug pull after the jobs numbers come out, it's taking us back down to about 265. So very simply put, if we're bullish, you want to see it break this resistance right over here. That would take us a lot higher. Break 265, we're looking for a push close to this imbalance above here. And for bearish, you want to see us lose support at 260, and then we're going to be dipping back down here. My gut tells me what's going to happen is Tesla's going to push a little bit higher, possibly closer to 265, maybe a little bit above that. But then we might not break these highs right here. We might just make a lower high and reject and start dipping later on as the day goes on. So just keep that in mind. That's what's the most likely case, but that depends on the jobs numbers. So get ready for volatility at 10 a.m. As far as SPY goes, we have this gap to fill, so I do anticipate there might be a little bit more downside coming, especially as we get closer to fill this gap at 579. So be very mindful. We might dip a little bit lower, and then we'll see if we get a bounce or not once the jobs numbers come out. But this looks a little bit more bearish, as we are technically below the 50 EMA at 579.68. We also have resistance at 580.5. If we reclaim that, we will turn back up. Otherwise, the odds favor this gap pull back down to 579. As far as ES goes, ES is looking a little bit more bearish. We're looking for this gap fill down here, all the way down to 58.46. So there's going to be a risk of us dipping lower. We'll see if we get a bounce off that or not, but I do anticipate a little bit more downside to the 58.40s before we see some buyers attempt to defend it. So look for more downside as time goes on. For others out there, such as Nvda, we have this resistance at 140. If we can't reclaim that, the odds are favoring us dipping closer to 138, and we'll see if we bounce or not. I think we might be dipping closer to 138, and we'll have to see how things end up going as we have a double top leg structure. So look for a dip to 138. We'll see if we get a bounce or not, but look for some more downside on Nvidia, at least for the time being. Then we're just waiting to see how we end up reacting to the data. Bitcoin pumped to about 71,500. Now we're dipping back down. If we can't hold above 71,000, we're looking for a dip back down towards 60s, basically 70,000, very close to this imbalance. So there might be a little bit of a dip coming. We are looking like we're struggling to hold in this high area for now. But whether or not that happens could be dependent on the jobs numbers, so just keep that in mind. For a few more, we have NQ. This is dipping just a teeny bit after PayPal's earnings. We're still indecisive. Shuffling adds 20,500. If we break out, we're looking for 20,600 as resistance, and supports at 20,450. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip back down as well to 20,400. So watch to see which way we end up going. We might be dipping a little bit. Same thing with the QQQ. We could be retesting 494. If we lose 494, we're looking for 492.98. If we hold this, we could attempt to rebound to higher levels. So look for a little bit of a dip to 494.63, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For Apple, we have a tendency of kind of rejecting, so we kind of pumped here, rejected, pumped and rejected, pumped and rejected. So now we pushed here, and now we're dipping back down. So we're looking for basically 231.6. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip back down to 230. And if we hold above 232, we're looking for a push back up towards 233. My gut tells me it's going to pump just a little bit back up to about 232.8. Then we could be dipping all the way back down towards these lower levels, especially as we have this gap to fill down here. So Apple might attempt to rebound initially, but then there's a risk of it coming down. Will that happen or not depends on our very important data. So just keep that in mind. The Russell is looking a little bit more bearish. We're looking for 221 as our support. We'll see if we bounce off this or not. If we don't bounce off this, there is a risk of it coming back down towards 218. So just keep that in mind. This does have a bearish looking structure as we're rejecting. We have this gap to fill way down here. So there might be more downside. If 221 fails us, there's going to be a bigger risk of downside on the IWM. So just keep that in mind. For Amazon, Amazon's looking a little bit flat right here. Might attempt to rebound for 188. But I think we're just going to be range bound between 190 and 187 for the time being. We still haven't fully filled this gap, so it might kind of pop a little bit, then come back down to 187. Just continue to consolidate. For Meta, we're trying to push higher. We're looking for 580 as our resistance, but I think that there's a range between 581 and 576 as our support. So we're just going to be range bound for the time being. Might be looking for 580. We'll see if we get a rejection back down to 576. So look for some sideways price action. As far as Microsoft goes, we have kind of like a double top, maybe like a bearish divergence. So if we end up losing 425.86, we could be dipping back down to where this gap is, back down to 424.8 or 423.19. We also have this resistance to watch for around 428. So if we end up dipping lower, we're looking for this gap all the way down here. So I think that there is a risk of us dipping lower. It's about the 423s if 425 fails us. So give us the time it needs. As far as Google goes, we're just range bound right over here. We basically have 170 as our resistance and 168 as our support. If 168 fails us, we're looking for 167.21. We'll be watching to see if we get a small dip here, so give this a little bit more time. But we're waiting for earnings to cause a much larger move. Anyways, that's it for my analysis. I went over quite a few details. So just know that as far as Tesla goes, we're going to be looking for a little pop upon open. It's going to attempt to push up with the markets just a bit, but just be careful because we have this big data coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. It's going to cause some high volatility. So we'll see if this causes Tesla in the market to dump or not. Just be careful, guys. Get ready for that volatility at 10 a.m. That's going to be the next catalyst for the markets. All right. So I thank you for listening. Please have a great day. I'll be back once again in just a couple of hours for another update. Until then, I hope you guys have a great day and peace out.